लिख्यते हृदय कुहर मध्ये केवलं तन्मात्रम् यहम् अहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वम् चिन्वता मज्जता आनचलो आत्मनिष्ठो देहं जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तभावशक्तिसमये सिद्धा न सद्धा दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मनो सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः विभाति स्वयं Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has been our practice to read two verses selected for us randomly. Each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning. That is followed by the practice of Atma Vicharam for about 15 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and the practice of self-enquiry are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and that will be followed by the offering of Sri Ramanastotram. The chanting will be by Vaibhavji and Pratnama online, and we, the rest, shall offer ourselves by inquiring who is the listener, paying attention on who is the listener during the chanting. We begin the satsang by taking up the first verse selected for us, verse number 6 of Guru Vachaka Kove. This we find in the introductory or the prefatory verses, even before the beginning of the 3 segments of investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and experience of the truth. Even before those 3 segments, there are prefatory verses. They number about 13, and we have been given 6th verse, the name of the work and its origin. Name of the work Guru Vachaka Kove and its origin. 6th verse. Abiding where Ramana embraced me, I dwelt there with my Lord and rejoiced with him. Abiding where Ramana embraced me, I dwelt there with my Lord and rejoiced with him. I will relate a fragment of the teachings of the nature of the Supreme Truth, Paramartha Dharma, and Supreme Truth, Paramartha Dharma that I realized in our life of union together. This work is also called as Paramartha Deepam. Paramartha Deepam. So, in this verse, Muruganar Swamigal is narrating how he has come to write this work. First thing is that he is abiding where Ramana embraced him. Where Ramana, the unconditional self-luminous spirit, embraces a jiva, then the jiva is no more there. Because in that unconditional embrace, there is only the Paramartha Deepa. Only the Supreme Self is there. When the Supreme Self embraces a jiva, the jiva and jiva bhava completely vanish into the Paramartha Deepam. Here the Paramartha Deepam is given the name Ramana. Abiding where Ramana embraced me, where the unconditional Sat Chit existence consciousness, when it embraces the jiva loses its separate nature and sees nothing apart anymore. To be embraced by the Supreme Self is to see that there is nothing apart. There is no journey that you have made, because in that there is no thought other than the self. There is no jiva, no journey from bondage to liberation. It is not that the jiva who has been embraced alone is saved. It is that one merges in that universal oneness where there is no bondage, there is no liberation. As another teacher, Buddha, would say, there is always the uncreated, the unborn, the unassembled, whose existence alone assures deliverance or liberation from bondage, from birth and death, and from assemblages. So the unborn, self-luminous self alone really is. And when embraced by that, there is only joy. Ninan Arappuli Nidangali Mayamai நின்றிடும் நிலையருள் அருணாச்சலா. There is no doubt, there is no other, there is nothing to be achieved. There is only happiness, untainted, unalloyed happiness. That is why he says, I dwelt there with my Lord and rejoiced with him. Now, from that rejoicing spirit of oneness with the Supreme, I will relate a fragment of the teachings on the nature of the Supreme Truth, Paramartha Dharma, while remaining unconditional and abiding in that unconditional, in that which doesn't have any limits and which is self-luminous. Now I am going to relate a fragment of the teachings, because the fullness of that unconditioned self-luminous cannot be expressed. Likyate katham. It is beyond the realm of thought. It is beyond the reaches of emotion. It is beyond the reaches of the senses. And of course, any measurement of physics or chemistry. It is beyond all that. From there, I will relate a fragment of the teachings on the nature of the Supreme Truth that I realized in our life of union together. One is resting in that happiness. What Bhagavan says in sadhana, summayiru, be still, becomes natural. To the jiva, Bhagavan says, be still. Pay attention to who you are, still the eye. Natanananda Swami asks, is it not laziness? Will not there be a feeling that you are teaching laziness? Bhagavan says, how can it be laziness? All other mundane activities, including managing a whole country, managing United Nations, managing any loka, if it were to be apart from this loka, all that is done with part of the mind, with frequent breaks. How are mundane activities done? With part of the mind, with frequent breaks. But to be still, for whom is this thought? And hold that eye. For that, the whole mind is needed, and it has to be done without breaks. That is why it is called as Mulu Muyarchi by Bhagavan. Now, any trouble, any responsibility, any duty you feel, what is the complete effort you can do towards that duty? Somebody has poured their heart out, all these miseries that they are facing. What is the best thing? What is the best effort you can do? For whom is this? Who am I? That is Mulu Muyarchi. Complete effort. That breaks Maya, he says. And that complete effort becomes natural. It is from that natural, complete effort that Muruganar is relating these verses about the Paramartha Dharma of how to abide in that which is completely self-luminous, self-sufficient, self-satisfied, self-existing. And the sadhana for that is Atma Vicharam. That is what we are going to practice for the next 15 minutes. Ujjwalji, you can help us setting the time.
Shri Ramanaya.
We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us. The verse number is 1, 2, 1, 2, 5, 1. The other end of the book, that is almost near the end. The total numbering we have is 1254. This is the 1251st verse. The state of equipoise. The state of equipoise 1251. The jnani has attained in full measure the self-experience, the state of stillness that shines as intense peace through the destruction of the ego. The jnani has attained in full measure the self-experience, the state of stillness that shines as the intense peace through the destruction of the ego. Because his mind does not become elated through praise by desiring it, he is also never depressed by criticism. Here, the equipoise of the jnanam or jnani's mind. There is no jnani in jnanam. There is only awareness where all personality is extinguished. In உள்ளது நாற்பது, Bhagavan says, தன்மை உண்டேல் முன்னிலை படற்கைகள் தாமுலகம் தன்மையின் உண்மையை தானாய்ந்து தன்மையரின் முன்னிலை படற்கை முடிவுற்று ஒன்றாய் ஒளிரும் தன்மையே தன்னிலைமை தான். That only after the first person arises do the second and third persons arise. So whenever we are thinking of another person, what did Mahatma Gandhi do? What did Hitler do? For whom is this thought? When we ask, we go to that I, where the first person, second person division has been absorbed. There is only that, beyond all ego. However great, however evil, however good, there is no egoism at all in the equipoise of the self. There is no one to raise. When Mahatma Gandhi, in his tour, enters the station in Bihar, the train enters the station, he says there were about 100,000 of people in the platform. And he says, I could see my mind, I could see my ego rise up in elation. He is not saying I was elated. He is aware of his ego, the ignorance rising. That is slightly different. And Bhagavan says the jnani has no such rising at all. The self-attention has so killed the first person, so eliminated the first person, that there is only the unconditional self-awareness. Now, there is no desire. Therefore, if somebody praises, that praise, there is nobody to receive. So it gets absorbed. Let's say somebody says, you have done me a great favor by bringing Bhagavan's teachings to me. There is nobody to receive it. Therefore, there is no elation. Since there is no elation, similarly, when somebody says, you have thrown me into the doldrums by making me do self-enquiry when I could have done so many good things. so many things to improve my situation. When somebody says like that, there also there is nobody to feel depressed, because all individuality has been erased, dismantled, and absorbed into the self luminous self. So, when one is beyond praise and shame, then one is said to be in equipoise. One is poised. In success, there is no elation. In failure, there is no depression. Because success and failure is life praising us, or life, the flow of life, when it laughs at us, we call it as failure. But there is no feeling of depression there, because there is no one left to be depressed. So the jnani or the jnanam is in equipoise, undisturbed by praise or vilification. Criticism is the verse. Let us sit in the practice of that equipoise. When thoughts arise, a thought of success, a thought of some praise by somebody, we should not follow it and feel, what a great thing I have done. You should immediately inquire for whom is this thought. Similarly, somebody has strongly criticized us, vilified Bhagavan. What we should do? We should not get depressed following that thought. We should ask, for whom is this thought? Who am I? There one goes into that equipoise which is beyond all disturbance. Let us sit in practice of self-inquiry for the next 15 minutes or so. Ujjwalji, we will have to trouble you again. Thank you.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Dhyanamulam Gurur Murtihi, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guru, Mokshamulam Guru Kripa. Namo Ramana. So let's look at a family situation. So there's a couple who suddenly have a child. The child is born, and the child is absolutely stranger. But when the child is born to the family, to the couple, what happens? It becomes their child. And what happens? They're all one now. So earlier there were only two, and suddenly the new addition comes and they become three. And this child grows up. And once it becomes some 7, 8 years old, one day it tells his mother, Mother, you are dumb. You are dumb. What do you mean you're dumb? The child tells his mother, you are dumb. So this mother, what she does is she goes to the neighbor's house with great pride. She tells the neighbor's wife that my son told me I am dumb. My son must be so intelligent, or my child is so intelligent, as when he's so young, he's really realizing that I am dumb. So with a lot of pride. And then what happens? A few days later, the neighbor's child comes to play in this person's house, and then this child obviously does not understand what's the word dumb. So what happens? This neighbor's child calls this mother, Mother, aren't you dumb? Your child called you dumb. So my God, that mother gets furious with this situation and says, "How come?" She goes back to the neighbor's wife and tells, "How come your son can call me dumb?" Now look at this situation. The same situation, that same person is being called dumb by two different people and two different children. One child says dumb, and mother feels very proud of that. And another child calls her dumb, and she feels very angry about that. So what's the difference? So the difference is, in one place that she doesn't see any difference in her husband and her child and herself. They are one family. They don't. She doesn't feel the difference. So anything is acceptable. And the child, our neighbor's child, is somebody outside. So when you see something outside, you just cannot tolerate, anybody saying anything which is bad. So similarly, Bhagwan's situation, look at Bhagwan's situation, similar situation. Bhagavan, he is abiding in the self, and he knows that like in that family, everybody was Murti. For example, we put their surname as Murti. Everybody was a Murti in that family. So in Bhagwan's thing, everybody is the self. Everybody, he knows Bhagavan is in the self. He knows everybody's reality is only the self. So there is no differentiation in everybody. He knows Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram. He knows that Brahman is the only real entity. Mr. So and so is a false non-entity. So even somebody writes against him that he is like that and you should beware of him and this and that, he knows that it is false non-entity. It is like a magician. A magician from a piece of cloth will get one pigeon out, one white pigeon out. And imagine you are trying to now do analysis of how did the ribbon become the pigeon. Now it's just a trick. There is no reality to the pigeon was always there. So the important thing that we need to understand here again is this aspect that Atman is Bhagwan is always abiding in the Atman. The other part is the false part. The separateness is the false part. So Bhagwan also looks at that devotee who is written against him and says, it's all, first of all, it's all me, number one. Number two is, at another level, it's ignorance because he doesn't know himself, who he really is. That's why he's writing about me like that. But actually, it's everything is one. Vasudeva, like we say, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, everybody is one. There's only Ekam. Then what happens? Anybody can write about anybody. It's like the child calling a mother dumb. She's very proud. So Bhagavan also says, oh, this fellow wrote about me. He should have written something more because he would have become more popular. And if he had become more popular, oh, it would have been so good. So that's the trick about sadhana. The samatva, if you really understand there is no difference between you and everybody else, everything is only one, then what happens? There is whatever happens, it really doesn't matter because Brahmam Satyam Jagat Mitya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. Thank you so much. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to help us through the chanting. Namo Ramana, Vaibhavji and Pratnama.
Namo Ramana. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रम् भुवनम् समस्तम् गुहाहितम् तम् रमणम् गभीरम् चिन्ताविहीनम् हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महोंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महौजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौळिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ फुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमृतविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलऋद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेश्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाह विवश तादात्म्यभावं गतः निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनः सेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Vaibhavji. Thank you, Pratnama. Thank you, Venkatesh ji. Thank you, Ujjwal ji. Namo Ramana to all.